Right, we're going to start the Afterthought heel now. So we made the opening earlier, before we put our cuff on at the top. We made the opening for the heel, and now we've got to get the heel on it, and then we've got a sock. We've got an actual functioning sock. Now for this part you are going to need your stitch markers again, and just the whole Afterthought heel works almost like a reverse of the toe. So with the toe, if you remember, you had two different coloured stitch markers, one to denote the beginning of the round and one the halfway point. So I think the green was the beginning and the red was the halfway point. So you're going to need that again for this little exercise. So just have those ready. We're also going to need our yarn, obviously. So I'm going to start, the cuff is at the top, toes at the bottom, and we're going to start by joining the yarn into the bottom right corner of the opening. Okay, so I like to just fold that top part back just because it makes it easier to work, and I'm going to start. You can see the, oh sorry, I don't know if that was on camera at all. You can see it becomes quite obvious where the starting point is if you fold it back like that. So my hook goes through there, just wrestling off camera with the pink yarn. Just a moment. Oops, and the yarn goes around the hook and off we go. And all we're going to do is put one double crochet into each stitch along this opening. Sorry, I will get myself organised. There we are. Right, so I've pulled up a loop of the new colour, or the pink, and I'm going to go through that again, and that's going to be my first double crochet. Don't forget, obviously we are working UK terminology, and all I'm going to do is go all the way along the opening, making a double crochet in each stitch. I'm just catching the end in there as I go, all the way along. Right, so when I'm getting towards the edge, well, I am now at the edge of that first side of the opening. If I show you what I mean, take the hook out, you can see I've put double crochet all the way along that side of the opening. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put the red stitch marker in that last stitch, and by obviously mine is red, but red in the pattern is the stitch marker that denotes the halfway point of the round. So whatever you've allocated to be the halfway pointer, pop your stitch marker in at that point. Okay, I'm now going to turn round and we're going to do the same again on this opening of the Afterthought heel. The difference being this time round, we're working into the underside of that chain we made. So it'll feel a little different, but it's fine. You can again work all the way along that opening. Okay, so I'm now on the last couple of stitches on this side, and at this point let's have a chat about stitch count. If you're working the small size sock, you should have 50 stitches at this point, 50 double crochet stitches. For the medium size you should have 54, and for the larger size 58. So have a count along there and just make sure you've got the right amount of stitches. Obviously don't worry too much, we can make little adjustments as we go along if needs be, but shh, don't tell anyone. Right, so I'm now going to put on that last stitch I've made, I'm going to put the green stitch marker on that one. And the green stitch marker, if you remember, is our stitch marker to denote the beginning of the round. So whatever you've allocated for your beginning round stitch marker, please pop that on there. Our Afterthought heel is worked in the same way, sort of, as the toe, in that it is worked in a continuous spiral. We're not going to be joining each end of the round with a slip stitch or anything like that. We're just going to keep going just as we did with the toe, but we're actually going to work in reverse. So with the toe we started with a few stitches and increased at each edge on every other round to build up our stitches. With our heel, we're going to go precisely the opposite. We're going to start with a lot of stitches and we're going to decrease every other round to take it down to a fewer stitch. So it's very clever. Very, very clever indeed. Right, so we've put double crochet in every single stitch of that opening, and we're going to start round 1 now of the Afterthought heel, and we start round 1 immediately with a decrease. And how we're going to decrease I don't know what the correct grammar is there. We're going to double crochet 2 stitches together, so that's DC 2 tog. And again, don't forget we're working UK terminology. So just as a reminder, if you're not too familiar with that, all I'm going to do is pop my hook through the first double crochet. And normally I'd pick up the yarn, wouldn't I, and finish off that stitch. But what I'm actually going to do is now put my hook through the second. Have I done that right? Yes, through the second stitch and pull through another loop. So I've now got 3 loops on the hook. I'm going to pick up my yarn and pull that through all 3 loops. And what I've done is I've turned 2 stitches there into 1. So thus I have decreased a stitch. Now, when we were increasing for our toe, if you remember, what we did was, there's the marked stitch in the middle. We increased either side of the marked stitch and just put 1 stitch in the middle, didn't we? Or 1 stitch on the marked stitch. We're doing the reverse, and what we're actually going to do is decrease either side of the marker but put 1 stitch on the marked stitch. So what I need to do now is work all the way along from where I am all the way along till 2 stitches before this marker here, and then I can do another decrease. So let me do that. So by work all the way along, all I mean is I'm just going to put 1 double crochet in every stitch along. Okay, so I'll quickly do that and I'll see you when I get to 2 stitches before the red marker. Okay, so I'm on the last couple of stitches here before I make it to 2 stitches before the marked stitch. Let me show you. So there's my marked stitch. I'm pulling it up there and you can see I've got 2 left before I get there. So I'm going to do another one of those decreases. So hook through the next stitch, pull up a loop, hook through the one after, pull up a loop. So I've got 3 on the hook, yarn over and pull through all 3. So let me just stop there. So what I've done now is I've decreased at each end of this side of the opening, and every decrease round you need to make sure you've got 4 decreases in total. So we've got 1 here and 1 here so far, so there's 2 of the 4. I am now on that marked stitch, so just as we did with the toe, I'm going to take the marker out. I'm going to put 1 regular straightforward double crochet in that stitch, and then I'm going to replace the marker. And you and I know it's a safety pin, but I'm calling it a marker, and that's fine. Okay, so now, oh, I've put it in the wrong, have I put it completely in the wrong stitch? Don't do that, viewer. Make sure you put it in the right stitch. All, goodness knows what's, I think the earth will spin off its orbit, off its axis possibly. We just don't know. Right, so, sorry, that's where it should be. So I'm now the other side of my marked stitch, which means I need to do another decrease. So again, it's just as before, hook through next stitch, pull up a loop, 2 on the hook, hook through the next stitch after that, pull up a loop, 3 on the hook, yarn over through all 3. Okay, and then, so now I've managed 3 decreases, and I've got to gallop all the way over to this marker and do my final decrease just before that marker to make a set of 4 for this round. So off I go, putting 1 double crochet in every stitch till I get there. Okay, so I'm 3 stitches before the marker now, so I've got 1 more to go in. Okay, and now on my last 2 stitches before the marker, I'm going to do that final decrease. So hook through, pull up a loop, hook through the last stitch before the marker, pull up a loop and decrease by pulling the yarn through all of those. So let's have a look. So what we've now done, or what I've now done, and I'll turn it that way actually, is I've completed one full round of decreases, and I've started working the Afterthought heel. Just as, like I said with the toe, we increased every other round, we're going to decrease every other round. So because we've just done a decrease round, our next round is just going to be round 2 on your pattern, and all it's going to be is putting 1 double crochet in every stitch all the way around. Okay, so I've just removed the green marker, I've made my stitch, and I'm going to put it back in. So I'm going to make 1 double crochet all the way around this round until I get to 2 stitches back before this green one. Okay, I'm going to move my red marker, I'm going to make 1 stitch in my red marker and move that up as I go all the way around until I get back to this point. Okay, and then when I get back to 2 stitches before this point, that means I'm ready to start round 3 and I'm ready to do another decrease round. So hopefully that's makes sense. It is quite straightforward. You're going to have 1 round of plain double crochet all the way around, moving up your stitch markers as you go, and then you're going to have 1 round where you make those 4 decreases, 2 each side of the marker. Okay, so that's all there is to it really. And as you can see, as I said, it is sort of pretty much the reverse of what you've done with the toe, so it's probably quite intuitive. I always use that word, don't I? I mean, it's familiar probably to you because we're doing 1 round of normal and 1 round of fancy, what I call fancy, and the fancy in this case is the decreases. So as long as you make sure you do 4 decreases on your decrease rounds, make sure that'll be 2 either side of those markers, then you will be absolutely fine. And you need to carry on like that until you get to the specified number of stitches on the pattern. So obviously every time we work a decrease round, we are taking 4 stitches out. Okay, we're taking 4 stitches out, and we want to keep going with round 2, which is what I'm working right now, which is a plain double crochet all the way around, and then a round 3, which is a decrease round. You want to keep going until you have got 22 stitches left if you're making the smaller size, 26 stitches left if you're making the medium size, and 30 stitches left if you're making the larger size sock. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to carry on alternating my decrease rounds, so plain round, decrease round, plain round, decrease round, until I get to 22 stitches, and then I'll show you what the heel looks like and how to fasten it off.